Namaste. Welcome once again to this episode of Weekly Dialogues. And today I have one very fine researchers into history of Indian scriptures, history of Islamic scriptures, and also into the NCERT's historiography. It's none other than Shri Neeraj Atri. Namaste, Neeraj ji. How are you?
Fine. Thank you, Ji. Thanks for welcoming.
Nice to have you here with us and
Thank
with the viewers of Jaipur Dialogues. You've been here earlier, and it's our good fortune that we are having you here again.
Thank you.
We've been watching your series on NCERT books, and particularly your research into the history which has been written by the NCERT or under the guidance of NCERT, or rather under the mandate of NCERT. And we also discussed in one earlier episode how the entire history writing, or rather all the writings of all the social sciences books, including history, has been outsourced to JNU, which is the what is called the operative circus of the leftists.
Thanks. Very true.
I would say that is the crime scene for the leftists, and that is where they commit all their basic crimes against India, and where they seed their anti-India narrative, and where they sit and design the various schemes like urban Naxalism, like Naxalism in the remote areas like forests and desert areas, or deserted areas rather, and the entire Red Corridor is actually designed in these institutions led by the JNU. And this is not from today. This is actually started by the Aligarh School of History, and that was way back in the 20s. And the progenitor of the Aligarh School of History was Muhammad Habib, the father of Irfan Habib.
Yeah.
And Muhammad Habib also happened to be some kind of a mentor and guide to our first Prime Minister, and also the tutor of our third Prime Minister. So
Okay.
he was not just the tutor of third Prime Minister, he was also the what is called master in the sense of, the Sufi Pir and Murid, in that sense, of Nurul Hasan, who ran our history, or who ran our education system for 6 years from 1971 to 1977.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of roots that these people have got into in the entire system, and it is no wonder that for 60-70 years we have got the kind of history that we have got.
Yeah.
And since you have been looking at the NCERT textbooks, particularly because these books are directed at the impressionable minds, our young children, and they do their slow poisoning, and that slow poisoning ultimately, when you see some deracinated kind of people indulging in urban Naxalism, the seed comes from there. Many of them are able to get out, but many of them are not able to get out, and they are crippled forever. So what is the kind of research that you done into the NCERT books? Let us have you share some instances or some samples, because the sample will ultimately give out the true story.
Yeah.
And I think you have got a very good sample. So let us have some samples from this great research that you've done.
Fine. What we can do is, I'll take first reference from class 6th, when history is introduced to our students in CBSE run schools where NCERT books are prescribed. Now what they do is, in class 6 itself, the narrative is designed in such a manner that any person belonging to Indic faiths, especially Hindus, they are time and again forced to realize that they belong to a tradition which has always been misogynist in nature, which has always been exploitative in nature, which has always been discriminatory in nature. And the first example that I'm sharing with you is this slide which you're looking right now. Here I have presented 4 instances of class 6 only, with the child is just 12 years of age. And now here, what is the strange part is that throughout the world, when a history book is written, it has 2 objectives in mind. One objective is, of course, to present history. Second is to give the students, the future citizens of the country, a sense of pride in themselves about their ancient traditions. Our books, these NCERT books, which were commissioned in 2006 by UPA 1, they work on exactly the opposite to this. Now, just go through these samples. The first one is page 55, class 6. However, some people, such as those who were regarded as Shudras by the priests, were excluded from many rituals. Next is the next page. Other women, sorry,
Often.
often women were also grouped with the Shudras. Both women and Shudras were not allowed to study the Vedas. Flip 4 pages ahead. Then again, however, women dasas and kamkars could not participate in these assemblies. I'll come into the details of that later on. And then at page 72, generally women were not allowed to study the Vedas and they had to follow the ashramas chosen by their husbands. Now, these
Right.
4 sentences are sufficient for any person who entered class 6 with self-respect, with the confidence that he belongs to a great tradition. They are sufficient to just puncture all his self-pride, uh, all his, what should I say? Entire,
Self-esteem.
yeah. And his entire spine is going to be broken by these 4 sentences that you belong to such a filthy tradition which used to do this. Now, the ironical part is, again, I'm probably repeating myself, that had these been based on truth, we should have accepted them. We could have accepted them with a pinch of salt that, okay, we belong to such a rubbish tradition, now let us change it. But this is all based on lies. The first and foremost example, when they talk of exclusion of women, reading of women as far as Vedas or Vedic corpus is concerned, let us keep in our mind that there were numerous Rishikas who have written the shlokas of Vedas themselves. And if you look at the entire world, probably this is the only tradition whose scriptures have a participation from women. And
Yes.
yeah, and strikingly enough, it is being presented exactly opposite to this. If you look at the next slide, that will elaborate in a better manner. The next slide tells you, now this is again from class 6. Here what they're saying is, here they're introducing Christianity. So now just think about the psyche of that 12 years old boy or a girl who has been fed with those 4 sentences which I just showed. Now what he is going to read. About 2000 years ago, Christianity emerged in West Asia. Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem, and so on, so on, so on. And then there is one portion of the Bible which has been quoted. Just look at this. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they should be filled. Sorry,
They shall be filled.
they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Now, this much study of Bible is sufficient for that child to think that his traditions were bad, and if I have to choose something else, then here is an alternative for it.
This seems to be some kind of a Christian proselytization program.
Yeah, exactly. That is what these books are. But hold on for a second. Let us look at the next slide also. Next, please. Now look at this. Find Arabia on the map. 6, there is a map given. Then I'll start from the second paragraph. Around 1400 years ago, Prophet Muhammad introduced a new religion, Islam, in Arabia. Now, next sentence is very key for us. Like Christianity, Islam was a religion that laid stress on the equality and unity of all before Allah.
It's only the unity of the Muslims or the believers before Allah. I mean, there cannot be a
That is
bigger
what
lie.
that is what you and me can read, but it's for a 12-year-old child who is going to read these sentences. And then what they've done is they've cherry picked one verse of Quran and put it over here. Now look at the wording very carefully. For Muslim men and women, for believing men and women, for devout men and women. So what they've done is they've picked up that one verse which tries to portray an image of Islam that men and women are equal in it. Now try to imagine, okay, our own children who are going to these schools, and we are sending them with the confidence that they are going to be okay in the school. They are being cheated in this manner.
Whereas they should be taught Surat an-Nisa,
Yes,
the fourth surah.
yeah. And one more factor which I would like to bring over here is that when they have introduced Jesus Christ, they are introducing him as a fact.
Right.
Whereas historically, we don't have any proof that there was any Jesus Christ who ever existed.
Yes, absolutely.
It is never ever mentioned. And on top of it, when they give the chronology of the word, it is also divided into AD and BC. So it is fully ingrained that Jesus Christ is a historical figure. This is history with a capital H. But we and all other people, what they have is mythology. The
That's
seeds
right.
are
In fact, when they introduced the Aryan invasion theory, one of the major reasons for introducing the Aryan invasion theory was to introduce the biblical chronology. And without biblical chronology, that absurd theory cannot even hold for 1 minute.
yeah.
And once the uh, Darwinian world has destroyed the chronology of the Bible,
Hmm.
I mean, any understanding person should have kicked out their theory without even blinking an eyelid.
Exactly.
But then still continues, and it finds place in the NCERT books.
And our children have been reading that for 16 years, 15 years.
Right. So that's indoctrination.
Yeah, exactly. That is indoctrination. I mean, what we are doing is we are sending our kids to school that the books have been designed by a democratic institution which we chose and with whom we expect to work for our betterment. And that is being used insidiously by Christian missionaries to indoctrinate those very children by using the same institutions which are being, what should I say, which are being propped up by the money which we are spending.
That's right. I mean, the history books have been written under the guidance of people like Romila Thapar, who is supposed to be an ancient historian without knowing Sanskrit,
Hmm.
and Irfan Habib, who is supposed to be a medieval historian, and he's confessed that he does not know either Arabic or Persian.
Hmm.
And then you have people like, D.N. Jha and Satish Chandra.
Urban Sufia.
Yes, and all of them confirmed card-carrying communists
Yeah.
who have under the guidance of the party, they have a whole system of writing history. It is taught to them. It is officially taught within the party how to write history. And these are the
Hmm.
people who have been entrusted with indoctrinating the minds of our children. I mean, there cannot be anything more catastrophic than that.
Yeah. And Sanjay ji, what appalls me is that nobody has raised any voice. No media house, no so-called, any self-respecting journalist should have looked at these and raised a hue and cry, but no one did anything about this. That is the most surprising part. And for last 6 years, there has been a change of regime, and still we've not seen anything on this front, at least
Oh,
till
yes.
now.
Some people were very proud that they did not change a sentence.
Yeah, that is like rubbing salts to your wounds.
That is very interesting. So, yes.
Now, see, had again, I'm reiterating myself that had these all been historically correct, we would have accepted them. I would be willing to convert to Christianity or Islam if they are such egalitarian religions as they are claimed or as they are being portrayed in NCERT books. But unfortunately, the truth is, now look at this. This is a part of Bible. Unto the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply the sorrow in thy conception. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. I mean, what can be more discriminatory than this? And yet, the
The
image
woman
that
herself is regarded as a part of sin, and
yeah.
that whole thing that that you have to wash off your sin. What is that original sin? That original sin is the sin of procreation.
Yeah,
Procreation is take it as a sin. There cannot be anything more regressive. There cannot be a thought which is more regressive than this, in which woman
absolutely.
is treated as an object and the woman is treated as part of that sin.
And we have a God who is, I mean, what is doing? Giving a sort of a shrap
Yes,
to
it's a
women.
curse.
Yeah. and and still the children are being fed something which is entirely contrary to the facts, and we are in 21st century.
Absolutely right. I mean, you and me, we can go and we can refer back and we can form our opinions by ourselves. But
Yeah,
children, they take these books as some kind of gospel.
exactly. See, that is irony. We are saying gospel.
Yes, gospel. Gospel is
Yeah,
a dogma. So
yeah,
when they say that gospel,
yeah,
they are not being taught to use their brains. They are just being fed. They're
exactly,
just being fed a dogma. So
exactly.
these books have become completely dogmatic.
Yeah.
Instead of promoting critical thinking,
Hmm.
they are being promoted as a dogma because there are three chief dogmas in the world, and that is Christianity, Islam, and communism. And
Yeah.
all three seem to be combining here in the NCERT books.
They have, yeah, they've joined their hands, and that is exactly what is visible. That is reflected in these NCERT books.
Quite right.
Just look at the next slide. Then it's again an extract from Bible. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to he in silence. For Adam was first formed, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived as in the transgression.
And woman was not even equal. She was formed out of the ribs of Adam.
Yeah, she. That is why she is distorted. Next,
Okay.
please. This is Surah Nisa, which we were talking about, verse number 24. Men are in charge of women, and Allah has made one of them superior to the other. And because men spend their wealth for the women, so virtuous women are the reverent ones, guarding behind their husband the way Allah has decreed guarding. Now, should we raise
So
a
yes,
question?
it is even lawful to beat your wife. We know
Yeah.
that.
Thankfully, we are not in a Sharia compliant state.
432, I think, where you can beat your wife.
Yeah. 424.
Okay, yeah, 424. Right. Yes, yes. This is the one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Next, please. This is the.
this is the one.
Okay, now this is very interesting. What they are doing is they are trying to feed into the minds that the index society has always been misogynist. And this is one example which they have picked up. The instance they're picking up here is when Draupadi is going to get married to the five Pandavas. So what they're saying is when her father Drupad hears of this, so he starts protesting that how can my daughter be married to five men? Then they say, look at the second paragraph. Vyas added that in another instance, a young woman had prayed to Shiva for a husband and in her enthusiasm had prayed 5 times instead of once. This woman was now reborn as Draupadi and Shiva had fulfilled her prayer. Convinced by these stories, Drupad consented to the marriage. This is one reason which is given. Then the above reason I missed out. When Drupad was told about this, he protested However, the seer Vyas arrived and told him that the Pandavas were in reality incarnations of Indra, whose wife had been reborn as Draupadi, and they were thus destined for each other. For these two reasons, they've given an NCERT. Now look at the teaser which have they put beneath it. Why do you think the authors offered three explanations for a single episode? Now, what is interesting is,
It is very clear. It is very clear. They just want to, that slow poison by
yeah,
association, by
yeah,
suggestion.
yeah,
Those are the
that is
kind of
one
things that
aspect.
are happening. Whereas the fact is that this is a Puranic story.
Hmm.
If you go carefully through Mahabharata, you
Hmm.
won't find this story.
The present edition of Gita Press Gorakhpur has this story in it.
Okay. In the
I
critical
went through.
edition, this does not figure.
Yeah, but what is more surprising? I'll tell it to you. Now they've given two reasons, and look at the teaser. They are saying three reasons. So there is an inconsistency over here, right? Now, when I went through Mahabharat, the present edition of Gorakhpur Press, they have given three reasons. Two reasons are these one, which they've quoted as it is. If you look at the next slide, that will tell you the third reason, which is present in Mahabharat. Next, please. Yeah, kindly zoom in onto it. Now, third reason is that Yudhishthir is saying something. This is the quotation from the Yudhishthir. My tongue never lies, and nor I have any leanings towards unrighteous conduct. Adharma is the word which he has used. But my mind is inclined for this marriage. That is why this marriage cannot be unrighteous. In the Puranas, there is an instance where a girl of Gautam Gotra named Jatila married seven sages. Similarly, Varakshi, the daughter of sage Kandu, also married 10 great men who were mutual brothers. Now, next is more important for us. The command of Guru is considered righteous, Dharam Sangat, and mother is considered to be the supreme Guru. Since command of this marriage has come from our mother, therefore this is the only righteous decision for us. Now, in short, what Yudhishthir is saying is, this is our dharma. If अगर माता ने कहा है तो वो पहला गुरु है, तो कभी भी अधर्म नहीं हो सकता, हमें इसको मानना है. Now, had NCERT put in this portion, that would have indicated that the Indic society gave such a venerable position to mothers and women.
Now, also, they are duty bound to put a disclaimer that this version does not exist in the critical editions.
Yes, that disclaimer is not there. See, what they are doing is they are not telling history to a student. It is like you rightly mentioned, it is slow poison which they are feeding. And pursuing to that agenda of theirs, they've deliberately deleted this portion because it would have run contrary to that agenda. That here is a blatant example in the phase where mother is considered to be the first guru. And this is something which they don't want the children and the students to learn. Now, this will become more clear if we go to the next slide. Next, please.
Okay.
Now, this is another example where they're again using those conjectures. I come back to it. Can we please skip to the next slide right now? Next, please. Yes, look at this. Now, on the right side, the title is Were Mothers Important? Because this is a thread which is running through the entire NCERT that they are trying to portray our ancient society as a society which never respected mothers. For this, what they are doing. One instance we've already seen. Now, here what they've done is, let us read it through. We have seen the Satavahana rulers were identified through metronymics, that is, names derived from that of the mother. Although this may suggest that mothers were important, we need to be cautious
We
before we
need to
arrive
be
at
cautious.
a conclusion. Yes,
Anything good, if it comes out, we need to be cautious.
exactly. That is
Anything
my
bad, we need to accept it like a dogma.
yes. So if there is anything good, we have to be very cautious.
I think we need to organize some kind of a festival where these books need to be burnt in a pyre.
Yes, it should be done. It should be done. I hope the people start taking out these books and start burning them on the roads. It should be done. Absolutely right. And now just pay attention to the left column, which is present in purple color. What
Yes.
they've done is they've taken the example of Duryodhan. Now, when he was going for the final war, the Mahabharat battle, Gandhari calls him up and says that you should make a truce, make a compromise with your brothers so that all of you can live together. And what then happens is that Duryodhan just spurns her offer and goes that he says that now since I'm a Kshatriya, I've decided I'm going for the war. Now in this column, look at the rectangle below. Does this passage give you an idea about the way in which mothers were viewed in early Indian societies?
My God.
This is the level to which they have fallen. And again, notice that they are not saying that this may, earlier we discussed that sometimes they put a disclaimer that this may not have been factually correct. But here, since they're talking of a villain and taking that the villain is going to be the protagonist, and his words are being said to be representative of the entire Indic society. That is what they're doing.
Right.
Next, please. Okay. Now, the second thread that I wanted to share over here was this is as far as misogyny or the maligning of our ancient traditions as far as the treatment of mothers was concerned. Now, second aspect that they've taken up is that when they are discussing anything about ancient India or the kings which did not belong to Islamic tradition or Christian tradition, they are either being lampooned or being portrayed as some possessed with negative qualities. Now here I've highlighted that portion over here. They're talking of Magad. And what they're saying is that, however, early Buddhist and Jaina writers who wrote about Magad attributed its power to the policies of individuals, ruthlessly ambitious kings, of whom Bimbisar, Ajatashatru, and Mahapadmanand are the best known. Now, in the entire narrative which they have built, there is not a single Hindu king which they found worthy of any praise. They are ruthless, they are ambitious, or they are lampooned also at some places. Now, let's just move on to the next slide, please. When they come to, this is not from NCERT, this is a different slide. Whenever they are talking of Islamic rulers, just yesterday, a mother sent me a message. She said that my kids are in 7th class, and since online classes are going on, and I was overhearing the lecture of my kids, she says that Khilji was so much glorified that it was sickening to just listen to it. So I've put over here 2-3 things which tell you, although it should have been for today, since we have already crossed 70 years of so-called independence, these things should have been absolutely clear to everybody what kind of people Alauddin Khilji or Tughlaqs were. But still, let me share it with you. Now, this is an instance. How did Khilji start his career?
By killing his uncle.
Yes, and not only his uncle. That uncle had brought him up from his childhood, and he was also his father-in-law.
Yes.
What he does is he calls him and treacherously kills him. And this is from Tarikh-e-Firoz Shahi, which is written by an Islamic scholar himself. But this Alauddin Khilji is neither ruthless nor ambitious. On the other hand, those 3 kings, out of all those 3 kings, only one was there who just imprisoned his father, and then again under an episode of guilt, he released him also. They are ruthlessly ambitious, but these people are not. Next, please.
I think our good friend Javed Akhtar Saab seems to be reading the NCERT books. That's why he's in so much praise of Alauddin Khilji.
Yeah, I was amused also, and I was frustrated also when he was saying those things. Anyway.
Yes, I did a video on him on that.
Yeah, I saw that you thoroughly exposed him, and that is exactly what should be done. These people should be named and shamed publicly. That is what needs to be done. Next, please. Next, please. Next. Yes. Kindly zoom into it. Now, this is from one of the most benign rulers, who is Muhammad Tughlaq, who is portrayed to be very benign. See what he's saying. This is written by him himself. The Hindus and idol worshippers had agreed to pay the money for toleration, that is Zare Zimmiya. The Zimmi tax was
Yes.
levied on them.
The survival
And-
tax.
Yeah, and had consented to the poll tax jizya, in return for which they and their families enjoyed security. These people now erected new idol temple in the city and the environs.
May I interrupt you?
Yeah.
This is a very important sentence.
Hmm.
In return for which they and their families enjoyed security. Actually,
Yeah. Hmm.
these people, these NCERT writers, everywhere, they seem to be portraying that everybody enjoyed equality.
Yeah.
And here it is a Muslim writer, an Islamic writer himself, who's saying that in order to even enjoy the security of your life, you have to pay the poll tax or jizya.
Exactly. And
Forget the equality. In fact, there is this, I think we can discuss some other time, how this, that Zimmi, the concept of Zimmi, was actually implemented in practice.
yeah.
And the code of Hazrat Umar,
Hmm.
which gives detailed, under the
Hmm.
Hanafi Islam, it gives detailed guidelines, which
Hmm.
was actually employed by all these rulers. All these rulers employed that code
Yeah.
of Umar.
Hmm.
The only exception is Akbar in the latter part.
Yeah.
And of course, that was continued some time. And that was reimposed again at the time of Aurangzeb. So
Yes.
throughout the Islamic rule, except for a brief period about 50, 60 years or so, about for 400 years, the Zimmi was supposed to pay jizya and live under the code of Umar as a second or third rate citizen with
Yeah.
no equal rights at all.
Yeah.
It's only slightly better than a slave.
Yeah. Slightly better than a serf.
Yes,
Hmm.
you could use that term as well.
Since you brought up this topic, what NCERT has done is they've gone a step further. I've not put that slide over here today, but I can tell you that what they're saying is that Zimmi was a their wording is that this tax was extended to Hindus as well.
Extended?
Yeah, no, it is, they portrayed it as if this was some kind of benevolence on their part, that this, for when they came to the subcontinent, they extended it to Hindus as well.
Well, I don't understand this. What do you mean by they extended this benevolence?
Yes, that is what they are portraying in NCERT books.
My God, and this is more shocking than what I thought.
Yeah. So that this is what I wanted to show, that here he is clearly saying that they have erected this temple, and therefore I have not only demolished the temple, but I've also killed the leaders of infidelity who seduced others into error, and the lower order I subjected to stripes and chastisement until this abuse was entirely abolished. And then what he is also cribbing about one fact, that even Muslims are going to these idol temples. That is what
Okay,
was
yes.
actually happening, and our students, our children are being fed that it was some kind of a benevolence which was being extended to Hindus as well.
That lament exists till today. That is why Tablighi Jamaat was formed.
Yes. That is exactly what they want. They want 7th century Arabia to be present in India.
That's right.
This is what I wanted to discuss as far as the treatment to kings is concerned in NCERT books. Yeah, we can go through this also. This is continuation of that same Muhammad Tughlaq autobiography. Information was brought to me that some Hindus had erected a new idol temple in the village of Salihpur and were performing worship to their idol. I sent some persons there to destroy the idol temple and to put a stop to their pernicious incitements to error. I think that should suffice for our viewers to understand.
That is quite right. Actually, what had happened is that these people, this particular Aligarh School of History, in alignment with some Allahabad University professors, they started this whitewashing project under the tutelage of this Muhammad Habib. And they had Satish Chandra and Nurul Hassan as their wards, and then this guy got associated with Motilal Nehru and infiltrated into Congress. And he built his root and branch system so perfectly that after the independence, he managed to completely subvert the system.
Yeah.
And they started subverting it by first denigrating the great scholars like
R.C.
Jadunath
Majumdar.
Sarkar, R.C. Majumdar, Dr. Ishri Prasad. These great scholars were first in a very insidious manner, and through Bhairappa, of course, is a fiction writer, so that we don't count as a historian. But they were denigrated, they were lampooned, then through innuendo, through studied criticism or studied, I wouldn't even say, again, that same slow poisoning kind of a system.
Yeah.
And with state patronage, they were almost completely eliminated. The greatest historians in the 20th century were eliminated from the syllabus.
Yeah.
From the syllabi. Whereas, and not only that, at great volume, that I think 12-part volume or something, by Eliot and Dawson.
Yeah, 8-part.
Eight-part Eliot and Dawson, who wrote that history Indian history as told by its own historians, where they had translated all these Islamic scholars. That was dismissed with just one sentence: "Oh, they are exaggerating."
Yeah, and that is sufficient. That
is sufficient. That is sufficient. And then we have these kind of historians, medieval historians, who do not know Arabic and Persian.
Yeah.
Whereas all these scholars, Dr. Ishri Prasad was a scholar of Persian, a great scholar.
Yeah, yesterday came to know this.
Yes. And all these people, and there is no scholar of ancient history in India and proper historian who does not know Sanskrit. How can you be an ancient historian without knowing Sanskrit?
Yeah.
So that is the kind of thing, that is the kind of poison we are being fed, and we are being led up the garden path. And we've been keeping silent all these years. But with this new round of textbook reformation that is underway, I think we need to pull up our socks, and we need to really go hammer and tong at it and ensure that the correct history is taught to our children.
Yes. I think this is an opportunity which every right-thinking Indian should grab upon and force the government to be honest with history. Rather, they should make a law for right to true history, because this should be a fundamental right.
Yes, right to information is a part of a right to free speech.
That is what history, I would say. Right to true history. Anybody who peddles such a nonsense should be penalized.
And they're considered to be great historians. They have been conferred honors, and they're given Padma Shris and Padma Bhushan and whatnot.
That is an unfortunate part.
The best part is that they refuse to engage. I can tell you, on Aryan invasion theory, I invited Madam Romila Thapar to a Jaipur Dialogue annual event. And she was, of course, kind enough to respond. But she made an excuse: I am traveling around Rajasthan in that period, so I would not be able to make it. You're traveling around Rajasthan, you could have come to Jaipur also.
Maybe Jaipur is on moon. Is it so?
And then what I did was, in order to highlight this in Jaipur Dialogues, with the help of some friends who committed that they would honor their word, I instituted an award, a purse of rupees 2 crores to anyone.
Yeah, I know that. I'm familiar. Actually,
the Aryan invasion history, there's not a single claim till now. Not a single claim. No Tony Joseph is applying, and no Westerner is applying. No Michael Wetzel is saying anything. Nobody, absolutely none, because they know what they are teaching is false. They know that they do not have anything to support them. Even linguistics and genetics have now failed
Yeah.
them. So they have nothing to
Going to,
stand.
yeah, they are
So
going to fall.
this was a great discussion with you, Neeraj ji.
Ji.
And I think we will continue discussing this for some more time as this round of textbook revision progresses, because we
Yes.
need to make people at large aware of what is going on and what
Yeah.
kind of poison they're being fed, what kind of poison their children are being fed, how the Breaking India forces are trying to and designing the breakup of this country, how the people who are wedded to the ideology of breaking India, the Gangadhar Adhikari position people, are
Yeah.
still around, have still not reneged, they have still not retracted from their position. And
Yeah.
in spite of that, they are being told to guide our children.
Yeah. It's
Thank you very much.
Ji.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. And we will meet again sometime. Thank you.
Thank you. Time
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.